Tom Miller was just buying groceries when the gunshot rang out. A small boy stood frozen in terror as the gunman aimed. Tom didn't think he ran. The bullet hit his chest instead. Hours later, black cars surrounded his house. The child he saved was the president's nephew. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Tom Miller was not a hero. At least, that's what he told himself every morning while making breakfast for his 7-year-old daughter, Emma. He was just a regular guy who worked at the local grocery store, drove a 15-year-old Honda, and lived in a small apartment on Maple Street. 3 years ago, his wife Sarah died in a car accident. Since then, it had been just him and Emma against the world. Tom worked double shifts to pay the bills, but he never complained. Emma was his everything. Her bright smile made every struggle worth it. "Daddy, you forgot the smiley face," Emma said, pointing at her pancake. Tom smiled and drew a face with syrup. "There you go, princess. Now eat up or you'll be late for school." Emma giggled and took a big bite. These moments were precious to Tom. Simple, quiet, and filled with love. After dropping Emma at school, Tom walked to work. The grocery store was only 4 blocks away, but today felt different. The streets seemed busier and there were more police cars than usual. "Something big happening today?" Tom asked his coworker Mike. Mike shrugged. "President's coming to town for some speech. Security everywhere." Tom nodded and got back to work. Politics didn't interest him much. He had bigger worries, like Emma's upcoming school trip that cost $50 he didn't have. At 2:30 p.m. Tom's shift ended. He walked toward Emma's school, taking his usual route through Central Park. The park was crowded today because of the president's visit. Families sat on blankets, children played on swings, and security guards stood at every corner. Tom was thinking about what to make for dinner when he heard the sound that would haunt his dreams forever: a gunshot. Screams filled the air. People ran in every direction. Tom's eyes searched frantically until he saw a small figure frozen in terror near the playground, a little boy, maybe 5 years old, standing alone as chaos erupted around him. 20 feet away, Tom saw a man in a black jacket raise his gun toward the child. Time slowed down. Tom didn't think about his own safety. He didn't think about Emma waiting for him at school. He only thought about that scared little boy who looked so much like his own daughter. Tom ran. The bullet hit him square in the chest just as he threw his body in front of the child. The impact sent him crashing to the ground, but he had done it. The boy was safe. "Are you okay?" Tom whispered to the child before everything went black. Tom woke up 3 days later in the hospital. His chest felt like it was on fire, but he was alive. A doctor with kind eyes stood beside his bed. "You're very lucky, Mr. Miller," Dr. Rodriguez said. "The bullet missed your heart by inches. You'll recover, but it will take time." "The boy, is he okay?" Tom's voice was barely a whisper. Dr. Rodriguez smiled. "He's fine. Thanks to you." Tom closed his eyes and felt a wave of relief. Then panic hit him. "Emma, my daughter. Where is she?" "She's with your neighbor, Mrs. Johnson. She's been here every day asking about you." Over the next week, visitors came and went. Mrs. Johnson brought Emma every afternoon. His co-workers from the store stopped by with flowers. Local news reporters wanted to interview him, but Tom refused. He didn't want attention. He just wanted to go home to his daughter. What Tom didn't know was that the boy he saved was not just any child. The boy was Marcus Thompson, the 7-year-old nephew of President James Harrison. While Tom recovered, FBI agents worked day and night to solve the case. The shooter, Derek Morrison, was caught within hours. But the investigation revealed something disturbing. Agent Sarah Chin sat across from Morrison in the interrogation room. "Why did you target the child?" Morrison laughed coldly. "I wasn't targeting the kid. I was targeting whoever would try to save him. I wanted to make a statement about false heroes." "What do you mean?" "People think they're heroes when they help others. I wanted to show that heroism is fake. When that grocery store worker jumped in front of my bullet, I proved my point. Heroes die for nothing." Agent Chin felt sick. Morrison had planned this attack specifically to hurt good people who would try to help. It was evil beyond imagination. But Morrison wasn't working alone. The investigation revealed a network of people who hated kindness, who wanted to destroy the faith people had in human goodness. They had planned more attacks like this one. President Harrison sat in the Oval Office, reading the FBI report. His hands shook with anger. Someone had tried to kill his nephew and had planned to murder anyone brave enough to help. "Mr. President," Agent Chin said over the phone, "Tom Miller saved your nephew's life. He threw himself in front of a bullet without hesitation. But there's more. We've discovered that Morrison's group is planning to target Mr. Miller and his family. They see him as a symbol of what they hate: ordinary people doing extraordinary good. The president was quiet for a long moment. Finally he spoke. What do they need? Sir? Tom Miller and his daughter. What do they need to be safe and happy? Agent Chen looked at her notes. Well, sir, Mr. Miller works at a grocery store making minimum wage. He's been struggling since his wife died. His daughter Emma needs school supplies, clothes, and, sir, they're behind on rent. President Harrison made a decision that would change everything. Give me the Secretary of Treasury and the head of the Secret Service. Now. 2 weeks later, Tom was finally home from the hospital. His chest still hurt, but he could walk and take care of Emma. They were having dinner when there was a knock at the door. Tom opened it to find 2 men in black suits and a woman in a navy blue dress. Mr. Miller? I'm Agent Williams from the Secret Service. This is Agent Lopez and Secretary of Treasury Janet Morrison. We need to speak with you. Tom's heart raced. Is something wrong? Is Emma in danger? May we come in? Agent Williams asked gently. Tom nodded, confused and scared. Emma hid behind him as the 3 officials entered their small apartment. Secretary Morrison smiled warmly at Emma. Hello, sweetheart. We're here to talk to your daddy about something very important. Tom sat down, holding Emma's hand. What's going on? Agent Williams spoke first. Mr. Miller, do you know who the child was that you saved in the park? Tom shook his head. Just a little boy who needed help. His name is Marcus Thompson. He's the president's nephew. Tom's eyes went wide. The president's nephew? Yes. And Mr. Miller, we need you to know that Derek Morrison, the man who shot you, is part of a group that wants to hurt you and your family. They see your act of heroism as a threat to their twisted beliefs. Fear gripped Tom's heart. Emma, is she safe? Secretary Morrison leaned forward. She will be. President Harrison has authorized full protection for you and your daughter. But there's more. She pulled out an envelope. The president wants to honor your sacrifice. This is a check for $1 million tax-free. Tom stared at the envelope like it was a bomb. I can't take this. I just did what anyone would do. No, Mr. Miller, Agent Lopez said softly. Most people would have run away. You ran toward danger to save a child. That's not what anyone would do. That's what a hero does. Emma tugged on Tom's shirt. Daddy, what's $1 million? Tom's eyes filled with tears. It's enough to make sure you never have to worry about anything, sweetheart. The next morning, Tom woke up thinking it had all been a dream. But when he looked outside, there were 2 Secret Service agents sitting in a car across the street. On his kitchen table sat the envelope with the check. His phone rang. It was his boss from the grocery store. Tom? It's Mike. Listen, some government people came by yesterday. They paid off all your medical bills and, Tom, they bought the entire store. They made me the manager and said you're the new owner. What the hell is going on? Tom sat down heavily. I saved the president's nephew, Mike. I didn't know it at the time, but... Holy crap, Tom. You're rich now. I guess so. But Tom didn't feel rich. He felt overwhelmed and scared. Money couldn't bring back Sarah. Money couldn't erase the nightmares he had about that gunshot. Money couldn't take away the fear that bad people wanted to hurt Emma. Over the next few months, the FBI continued to investigate Morrison's group. They discovered a network of 12 people across the country who had planned similar attacks. They called themselves the Reality Check, a group dedicated to destroying what they saw as false hope and fake heroes. Agent Chen visited Tom regularly to update him on the investigation. They're obsessed with you, Mr. Miller, she explained during one visit. Morrison talks about you in every interview. He says you represent everything wrong with society, people who think they can make a difference. Tom bounced Emma on his knee. She was wearing a new dress, the first new clothes she'd had in years. What do they want? To prove that goodness doesn't exist. They want to hurt you and Emma to show the world that heroes always lose in the end. But we have protection, right? Agent Chin nodded, but her expression was worried. Yes, but Tom, they're getting more dangerous. 2 members of their group were arrested last week trying to make a bomb. They're not just planning to hurt you physically. They want to destroy your reputation, make people think you're a fraud. The next day Tom saw what Agent Chin meant. A fake news story appeared online claiming that Tom had staged the entire shooting to get attention. The story said he was an actor hired by the government. It included fake photos and made-up quotes. Emma came home from school crying. Daddy, kids at school are saying mean things about you. They say you're a liar. Tom held his daughter close, his heart breaking. Emma, baby, you know the truth. I love you and I would do anything to keep you safe. Some people say mean things because they're hurt inside. But why do they want to hurt us? Tom didn't have a good answer for that. 6 months after the shooting, President Harrison made an unexpected decision. He was going to visit Tom personally. Sir, I strongly advise against this, Agent Williams said. Morrison's group is still active. A presidential visit will put both you and Mr. Miller at greater risk. President Harrison looked at the photo on his desk, his nephew Marcus, smiling and healthy, playing in the White House garden. Agent Williams, that man saved my nephew's life. He didn't know who Marcus was. He just saw a child in danger and acted. The least I can do is look him in the eye and say thank you. The visit was kept secret from the media. On a quiet Tuesday evening, 3 black cars pulled up to Tom's apartment building. Tom had been told to expect important visitors, but he never imagined the President of the United States would walk through his door. Mr. Miller, President Harrison said, shaking Tom's hand. I'm James Harrison. Tom stood frozen for a moment. Then Emma ran forward. Are you really the President? She asked with wide eyes. President Harrison knelt down to her level. I am. And you must be Emma. Your daddy is a very brave man. I know, Emma said proudly. He takes care of me and makes smiley face pancakes. President Harrison smiled. Smiley face pancakes? That does sound pretty special. For the next hour, the President sat in Tom's small living room, drinking coffee from a chipped mug and listening to Tom's story. Not the hero story that everyone wanted to hear, but the real story of a single father who was scared, tired, and just trying to do his best. Tom, President Harrison said finally, I need you to know something. My nephew Marcus asks about you every day. He calls you the nice man who saved me. He doesn't understand politics or fame or any of that. He just knows that when he was scared, you helped him. Tom wiped his eyes. How is he doing? He's good. He's in 2nd grade now. He drew you a picture. President Harrison pulled out a crayon drawing of a man with a cape flying through the air. At the bottom, in shaky letters, it said, Thank you for saving me. Tom looked at the drawing and started to cry. Not sad tears, but tears of joy and purpose. Unknown to Tom and the President, Morrison's group had been planning their biggest attack yet. They had been watching Tom's apartment for weeks, waiting for the right moment to strike. Derek Morrison, who had been released on bail pending his trial, was obsessed with finishing what he started. He had recruited new members to his group, people who believed that Tom's story was fake and that heroes were a lie society told itself. Tonight, we end this fairy tale, Morrison told his followers as they prepared their plan. But the Secret Service was ready. Agent Williams had never stopped investigating. He had placed undercover agents inside Morrison's group months ago. He knew about the planned attack and had prepared accordingly. As Morrison and 6 other members approached Tom's building with guns and explosives, they found themselves surrounded by federal agents. Derek Morrison, you are under arrest, Agent Williams announced over a megaphone. Put down your weapons. Morrison's response was to open fire. The gun battle lasted only minutes, but it felt like hours to Tom and Emma, who were hiding in their bathroom while Secret Service agents protected them. When the shooting stopped, Morrison and 3 others were dead. The remaining members of his group were arrested. It's over, Agent Williams told Tom. Morrison is gone, and we've arrested the last members of his network. Tom held Emma tight. Are we safe now? Yes, Mr. Miller. You're safe. In the weeks following Morrison's death, something beautiful began to happen. The fake news stories about Tom were proven false. The FBI released evidence showing that Morrison's group had created and spread the lies. The truth came out, Tom Miller was exactly who he appeared to be, a good man who had risked his life to save a child. But more than that, Tom's story inspired others. Letters poured in from around the country. Teachers read his story to their students. Parents used him as an example of doing the right thing even when it's hard. A father from Texas wrote, My son was being bullied at school. After hearing about Tom Miller, he decided to stand up for a kid who was being picked on. Thank you for showing us what real courage looks like. A grandmother from Maine sent a letter saying, I volunteer at the food bank every week now. If Tom Miller could risk his life for a stranger, I can give a few hours to help my community. The money from the President had changed Tom's life practically, but the letters changed his heart. He realized that his moment of instinct in the park had started a chain reaction of kindness. 1 year after the shooting, Tom made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He announced that he was giving away half of the money the President had given him. I want to start a foundation, he told Agent Chin during one of her visits. The Sarah Miller Foundation, named after my wife, will help single parents who are struggling. Tom, that's a beautiful idea, but are you sure? That's a lot of money? Tom smiled. Agent Chin, a year ago I was worried about paying rent. Now Emma and I have more than we could ever need. Sarah always said that when you have more than enough, you share. It's time to share. The foundation's first recipient was Maria Santos, a single mother of 3 who worked 2 jobs but still couldn't afford her daughter's heart medication. The foundation paid for the medication and helped Maria get job training so she could earn more money. The second recipient was James Washington, a single father whose son needed surgery. The foundation covered the medical bills and provided groceries while James took time off work to care for his boy. Within 6 months, the foundation had helped 50 families. Tom visited each one personally. He didn't just write checks, he listened to their stories, played with their children, and reminded them that they weren't alone. One evening, as Tom was reading bedtime stories to Emma, she asked him a question that stopped him cold. "Daddy, why did that bad man want to hurt the little boy in the park?" Tom had dreaded this conversation. How do you explain evil to a 7-year-old? "Well, sweetheart, sometimes people get so hurt inside that they want to hurt others. The man who shot Daddy was very sick in his heart." Emma thought about this for a moment. "But Daddy, you got hurt too when Mommy died and you didn't want to hurt anyone." Tom was amazed by his daughter's wisdom. "You're right, Emma. When bad things happen to us, we get to choose. We can choose to let the hurt make us mean, or we can choose to let it make us kind. You chose to be kind, Daddy." "I try to, baby. Every day I try to." Emma hugged him tight. "I want to be kind too. Can I help with your foundation?" Tom's heart swelled with pride. "Of course you can help, sweetheart." The next week, Emma started visiting the families the foundation helped. She played with the children while their parents met with Tom. Her laughter and joy brought smiles to families who hadn't had much to smile about in a long time. 2 years after the shooting, Tom was invited to speak at Marcus Thompson's school. Marcus, now 9 years old, had never forgotten the man who saved him. "Class, I want you to meet my friend Mr. Miller," Marcus said to his classmates. "He's a real hero." Tom knelt down so he was eye level with the children. "I'm not a hero, kids. I'm just a dad who loves his daughter and wants to make the world a little bit safer for all children." A little girl raised her hand. "But Mr. Miller, you stopped a bullet with your body. That's what superheroes do." Tom smiled. "You know what? Every day all of you have the chance to be heroes. When you share your lunch with someone who forgot theirs, you're a hero. When you include a lonely kid in your game, you're a hero. When you tell the truth even when it's hard, you're a hero." Another child asked, "But what if being a hero is scary?" Tom's expression grew serious. "Being a hero is always scary. I was terrified when I ran toward that gun. But sometimes doing the right thing means being scared and doing it anyway." After his talk, Marcus came up to Tom. "Mr. Miller, I practice being brave every day because of you. Yesterday, I stood up to a bully who was picking on my friend." Tom hugged Marcus. "I'm proud of you, Marcus. Your friend is lucky to have you. Can I meet Emma sometime? I want to thank her for sharing her daddy with me." Tom wiped away a tear. "I think she'd like that very much." 3 years after the shooting, something wonderful happened. Tom met Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, the same doctor who had saved his life in the hospital. She had been volunteering with the Sarah Miller Foundation, and over time they fell in love. "I don't know if I'm ready," Tom told Agent Chin, who had become a close friend over the years. "Sarah was my everything. How do I love someone else?" Agent Chin smiled. "Tom, you have the biggest heart of anyone I know. There's room in there for Sarah's memory and for new love. And Emma adores Dr. Rodriguez." It was true. Emma had been asking when Dr. Lisa was going to become her new mom. The wedding was small and beautiful. President Harrison attended, along with Marcus and his family. The ceremony was held in Central Park, near the spot where Tom's life had changed forever. As Tom and Lisa exchanged vows, Emma stood between them, holding both their hands. "Tom," Lisa said, "you taught me that real love means being willing to sacrifice for others. I promise to love you and Emma with that same selfless heart." Tom's voice shook as he spoke. "Lisa, you brought light back into our lives when we thought the darkness would last forever. I promise to be the man you and Emma deserve, every single day." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Emma cheered louder than anyone. 5 years after the shooting, Tom received a letter that made him cry tears of joy. It was from Derek Morrison's younger brother, Michael. "Mr. Miller," the letter read, "I need you to know how sorry I am for what my brother did to you. Derek was sick with anger and hate, But that's no excuse for trying to hurt you and your family. I've been following your foundation's work, and I want you to know that it inspired me to become a teacher. I work with troubled kids now, trying to help them choose kindness over anger like you did. I saved up money for 2 years to make a donation to the Sarah Miller Foundation. It's not much, only $500, but I wanted to help. I also volunteer at the local shelter every weekend. Thank you for showing me that one person's choice to do good can change everything. My brother chose hate, but you chose love. I want to choose love too. Tom shared the letter with Lisa and Emma that night. Daddy, Emma said, does this mean the bad man's brother wants to be good now? Yes, sweetheart. It means that even when terrible things happen, good can still grow from them. Lisa squeezed Tom's hand. You saved more than Marcus that day, Tom. You saved everyone who heard your story and decided to be better. 10 years after the shooting, Marcus Thompson was 18 years old and heading to college. He had grown into a confident young man who volunteered at homeless shelters and tutored younger children. Marcus visited Tom before leaving for school. Mr. Miller, I want you to know something, Marcus said. Every time I've faced a difficult choice in my life, I've asked myself what you would do. You've been my guide even when you didn't know it. Tom was now in his 40s, with gray showing at his temples. Emma was 17, beautiful and kind like her mother, with her father's brave heart. Marcus, you don't need me as a guide anymore, Tom said. You have your own good heart to follow. I'm majoring in social work, Marcus announced. I want to start my own foundation someday like yours. I want to help kids who've been through trauma. Emma, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. That's what I want to do too. Daddy, can I take over the Sarah Miller Foundation when you retire? Tom looked at these two young people, one whose life he had saved, one who was his own daughter, both dedicated to helping others. He realized that this was how heroism really worked. It wasn't about one moment of courage. It was about inspiring others to be courageous too. You know what? Tom said with a smile. Why don't you two run it together? 20 years had passed since Tom Miller threw himself in front of a bullet to save a child. The small act of courage had grown into something beautiful and lasting. The Sarah Miller Foundation had helped thousands of families. Marcus and Emma, now both in their 30s, ran the organization together. They had expanded it to include scholarships for children who had lost parents, job training for single mothers and fathers, and counseling services for families in crisis. Tom, now 55, spent his days as a grandfather to Emma's 2 children and Marcus's 3. Lisa had retired from medicine and worked full-time with the foundation. On the 20th anniversary of the shooting, Central Park held a ceremony. Hundreds of people attended, families who had been helped by the foundation, children who had grown up inspired by Tom's story, and everyday heroes who had chosen kindness because they heard about a grocery store clerk who ran toward danger instead of away from it. President Harrison, now an elder statesman, spoke at the ceremony. 20 years ago, a man named Tom Miller made a split-second decision that has echoed through countless lives. He didn't save just one child that day, he saved the idea that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Marcus, now a father himself, stood to speak. Mr. Miller taught me that heroism isn't about being fearless. It's about being afraid and choosing love anyway. Every family this foundation has helped, every child who has learned to stand up for others, every person who has chosen kindness over cruelty, they are all part of Tom Miller's legacy. Emma wiped away tears as she addressed the crowd. My father always says he's not a hero. He says he just did what any parent would do, protect a child. But that's exactly what makes him heroic. He saw a scared little boy and thought, that could be my Emma. In that moment, every child became his child. That's the heart of a true hero. That evening, after all the speeches and ceremonies, Tom sat on his porch with Lisa, watching Emma's children play in the yard. His grandson Tommy, age 5, was pushing his 3-year-old sister Sarah on a swing. Grandpa, Tommy called out, tell us the story about when you were brave. Tom smiled. He had told this story hundreds of times over the years, but it never got old. Well, Tom began, once upon a time, there was a dad who loved his little girl very much. One day he saw another little child who needed help. As he told the story, Tom thought about all the ways his life had changed. The money had made things easier, yes. The recognition had opened doors. But the real change had happened in his heart. He had learned that heroism wasn't about being strong or fearless or perfect. It was about caring more about someone else's pain than your own safety. It was about choosing to act when action was hard. Grandpa, little Sarah asked when the story was over, are you still brave? Tom picked up his granddaughter and held her close. Every day, sweetheart. Every day I try to be brave enough to be kind, to help people, and to make the world a little bit better. I want to be brave like you, Grandpa. You already are, sweet girl. Every time you share your toys or hug someone who's sad or tell the truth when it's hard, you're being brave. As the sun set on the 20th anniversary of the shooting, Tom reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He thought about Sarah, his first wife, who had taught him about love and sacrifice. He thought about the scared little boy in the park who had become like a son to him. He thought about Emma, his greatest treasure, who had grown into a woman who made the world brighter. He thought about Derek Morrison too, the man who had tried to prove that heroism was fake. Morrison had been wrong about everything. He had believed that people were naturally selfish and cruel, that acts of kindness were just pretenses. But Tom had learned the opposite was true. Most people were good. Most people wanted to help. Most people just needed someone to show them how. The bullet Morrison fired that day was meant to kill hope. Instead, it had planted a seed that grew into a forest of kindness. Every family helped by the foundation, every child inspired to stand up for others, every person who chose compassion over cruelty was proof that Morrison's dark vision of humanity was wrong. As Tom tucked his grandchildren into bed that night, Tommy asked him one more question. Grandpa, when I grow up, will I be able to save someone like you did? Tom kissed Tommy's forehead. My boy, you don't have to wait until you grow up. You can save someone tomorrow. You can save someone by being their friend when they're lonely. You can save someone by sharing your lunch when they're hungry. You can save someone by standing up for them when others are mean. Really? I can be a hero tomorrow? You can be a hero every day, Tommy. Just remember, being a hero isn't about being the strongest or the bravest. It's about caring about other people and being willing to help them, even when it's hard. As Tom turned off the light and closed the door, he smiled. The story that had started with a bullet would continue with his grandchildren, and their children, and their children after that. Because that's how real heroism works. It doesn't end with one person or one moment. It spreads like ripples on a pond, touching lives in ways you never imagine. Tom Miller had started as a grocery store clerk worried about paying rent. He had become something much greater, not because of the money or the recognition or the foundation that bore his wife's name, but because he had shown the world a simple truth. Love is stronger than fear. Kindness is stronger than hatred. And sometimes, one moment of courage can change everything. The hero next door wasn't special because he was different from everyone else. He was special because he was exactly like everyone else. Just someone who, when the moment came, chose love over fear. And in the end, that choice made all the difference.